Homage to the fundamental teacher Buddha Shakyamuni, homage to the wisdom warrior Manjushri, homage to all the lineage masters. The supreme and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate beings, please generate bodhicitta. Next, we will continue to explain the Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch. The Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch is a very important teaching on sudden enlightenment within the Chan school. After listening to it, for the very few people who are interested in Chan Buddhism, especially for those who have some understanding of the teachings on emptiness, it will be like a refreshing spring breeze, bringing immense benefit. However, for those who have not accumulated abundant wisdom and merit in past lives, it is very possible that after hearing such profound teachings, it may sometimes affect their practice of worldly virtuous deeds. In this regard, everyone should have wisdom to discern properly. Actually, being able to hear these teachings on emptiness and the Chan school is not something easily obtained, no matter who you are. Even if you hear these teachings on emptiness and Chan Buddhism, it is actually the fruit of accumulating merit over many lifetimes that has now ripened. Therefore, many of our Dharma friends who have attended this course on the Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch, I don't have the oral transmission, but most should be able to hear it to completion. Some people haven't heard it completely, but regardless, even if you just hear one class with the sound of these Chan teachings in your ears, I see that some people came today, and from their expressions I can see that they may not understand the principles of karma and causation, let alone Chan Buddhism. But hearing this Dharma in your ears should plant virtuous seeds in your alaya consciousness, which has immense merit. The Buddha also said in the Lalitavistara Sutra, this Dharma nature transcends words. Who can awaken to and penetrate its profound truth? Only those who have made offerings to Buddhas for many kalpas can hear it and give rise to faith and understanding. This means that these teachings on emptiness and Chan Buddhism that are beyond all words, regardless of what status a person has, as long as you hear them and receive them, or truly apply your mind to realize and enter into this profound meaning, such people actually did not obtain this through some temporary circumstance in this life alone. Rather, they must have made offerings to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas over many lifetimes and accumulated immeasurable merit before being able to hear these teachings and give rise to genuine certainty and faith in this fruition, Prajna Paramita teaching. This principle applies not only to hearing the Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch this time. Whether you're listening to the Ornament of Clear Realization or Madhyamaka or any other Prajna Paramita teachings, they all have such merit. Therefore, as I mentioned some time ago, one class on Prajna Paramita teachings and one class on worldly professional subjects on the surface may appear to be the same. I am also considered a teacher, and those present are also considered an audience. But in terms of their actual significance and the fundamental role they play, they are completely different. We human beings do not exist for just one lifetime. Rather, throughout all our lives, we must do things that are beneficial. Among beneficial things, teaching the Dharma and listening to the Dharma should be the most meaningful in one's life. Now, as Buddhists, what should we emphasize in the future? Most importantly, those who have the ability should teach the Dharma. This is extremely important. Those who have the ability should listen to the teachings of the great masters of the past or receive the Dharma from present-day spiritual teachers. The merit and effect of this cannot be compared to any value system in this world. So I also want to tell everyone beforehand that encountering such teachings in this life, everyone should have a joyful mind. In fact, in the human world, there are many ups and downs, rights and wrongs, all kinds of things that pass before our eyes every day. Our body and mind are constantly being stimulated by various pressures. But if we calm our minds and truly contemplate, the things in our lives that are truly meaningful for this life and the next are probably not very many. Although some people may temporarily accumulate merit and so forth, such merit and fortune are also not long-lasting. Some people may do virtuous deeds for a short period of time in the future, but this time period is also not very long. So I always feel that our strength in doing virtuous deeds is very weak, the time is very short, and the obstacles are quite numerous. In doing virtuous deeds, indeed many conditions are difficult to fulfill, but for doing evil deeds, all kinds of favorable conditions come in abundance. So regarding these issues, we sentient beings of the degenerate age, even if you encounter the true Dharma, even if it's just listening to one class, you should also cherish it. Today we continue with the Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch. Here's my plan. For the remaining parts, I'll basically explain them at the literal level. The later chapter on repentance, I'll explain it to everyone relatively simply. Today we'll continue right from here. The Master addressed the assembly saying, "Good and wise friends, fundamentally, the true teaching has no gradual or sudden approach. It is human nature that has sharp and dull faculties. The deluded cultivate gradually, the awakened realize suddenly. Once you recognize your original mind and see your original nature, there is no difference. Therefore, gradual and sudden are merely provisional names." The Sixth Patriarch spoke to his assembly and disciples saying, "Good and wise friends, fundamentally, my true Dharma teaching, the true Buddhism, actually has no distinction between sudden and gradual approaches. In terms of its own essential meaning, whether it's Hinayana or Mahayana, what they all address and proclaim is actually the meaning of the true Dharma nature. For example, in the Hinayana, when teaching about the truth of cessation or emptiness, it also teaches the principle that all phenomena have no inherent nature. In the root stanzas of the Middle Way, Nagarjuna cited the teachings of Katyayana, saying, "How does this teaching go in Tibetan? It's not working. I can't use it. I'm a bit confused today. Usually it's not like this. When I was young, it wasn't like this. But now I'm already confused." In Katyayana's teachings, it refutes existence and non-existence. I can't quite remember the first two lines. The Dharma has no gradual or sudden, but people's faculties indeed have sharp and dull. When we speak of faculties, as explained in the 5 faculties of Nirvana, there's faith, diligence, wisdom, and so forth. Some people also have faith, diligence, wisdom, and meditative concentration. Then they immediately realize very quickly, for example, when any spiritual teacher gives a class, all the people are receiving this class, and there's no difference in terms of the Dharma. But among us listeners, there are certain differences. Some people, everything the spiritual teacher explained, they already understand completely and clearly. Some people may have only partial understanding, knowing only part of the content. Some people may have only gotten a little bit from it. Some people not only didn't get anything, but developed wrong views, feeling it seems very unreasonable. I often think, including in today's class, I'm working hard to teach this class on the Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch. Among the Dharma friends present, each person's faculties, conditions, faith, and wisdom are all different. The results each person obtains may not necessarily be the same. During exams, we can also see this. Some people indeed explain very, very well. Some explain just so-so. Some people's explanations seem like perhaps they didn't read the book, or perhaps they were dozing off during the lecture, or perhaps their thoughts were wandering the whole time, doing other things. Such situations exist. The deluded cultivate gradually. Deluded people with duller faculties, the Dharma they practice, is cultivated gradually step by step. After this, it's like the Madhyamaka Svatantrika school, first establishing a mere emptiness, then establishing that even so-called emptiness doesn't exist, gradually determining things in this way. The awakened realize suddenly. People with wisdom, those of sharp faculties, suddenly enter directly into their own mind. Regardless of the approach, once you recognize your original mind and see your original nature, there is no difference. In the end, when you recognize the original face of your mind and truly see the original nature of all phenomena at that time, there is no difference. Some people in a very short time, as in Vajrayana and Chan Buddhism, may have originally been very ordinary people with no particular realization, but later, through various causes and conditions, they suddenly awakened. The Dharma they suddenly awakened to has no difference. Some people truly realize it only after a very long time. In our process of study and contemplation, there are also differences. Some people, after taking refuge for over 10 years, basically give rise to certainty about emptiness. Some people because their faculties are quite good, or as we say in worldly terms, their foundation is quite solid. Their wisdom can accept things very easily. Their capacity to receive is particularly strong. Of course, among intellectuals in our world, there are also two types. Some intellectuals also accept principles of Buddhism very quickly, but they also develop wrong views very quickly, change very quickly, and their conceptual thoughts are very heavy. I'm quite afraid of such people. Although their capacity to receive is very strong, it seems like before you even finish teaching, their eyes are already rolling around as if they already understand. But in a very short time they can easily abandon it, misunderstand it. Such situations also exist. Some people are indeed very upright. After truly understanding its meaning, they won't change. Moreover, wrong views and defilements find it very difficult to enter. Definitely, each person's past life conditions and merits still have very great differences. Regardless, from the perspective of original nature, there is no gradual or sudden. There's no difference between profound and shallow Dharma teachings and so forth. Therefore, sudden enlightenment and gradual enlightenment are actually just provisional designations. Different paths lead to the same destination, ultimately entering into wisdom like the great ocean with no difference. Good and wise friends, my Dharma teaching from ancient times until now, has first established no thought as the principle, no form as the essence, and non-abiding as the foundation. In this chapter, the Sixth Patriarch mainly discusses the three most important aspects of Chan Buddhism: no thought, no form, and non-abiding. In the past, Master Shengyan of Taiwan said that the main thought of Chan Buddhism is no thought, non-abiding, and no form. The Sixth Patriarch also emphasizes these three here. Actually, when analyzing these three according to Madhyamaka thought, we often also call them the three gates of liberation. The cause is no form, the nature is emptiness, the result is no aspiration. This principle is basically the same. Here it says, "Good and wise friends, my sudden enlightenment teaching has been transmitted through generations, from Bodhidharma until now." The main principle of this teaching is first establishing no thought as the principle. No thought, the main principle of Chan Buddhism, or its core idea. No thought and no form will be explained below. No form is actually its essential nature. Non-abiding is actually its fundamental basis. It divides into these three. First is, no form means being free from form while within form. No thought means being without thought while within thought. Non-abiding refers to human beings' original nature. In the world, regarding good and evil, beauty and ugliness, even enemies and relatives when encountering hurtful words, irritating words, deception or disputes, regard all as empty and don't think of retaliation or harm. Here it separately explains these three, first with a brief explanation. First, what is no form? Actually, no form means being free from form while within form. The form here in Madhyamaka, we often use it to mean the characteristics of attachment. For example, in the mind, this is white, this is red. This is called the characteristic of red. Among forms, there are also the forms of perceiver and perceived. The form of the perceived is the characteristic related to external objects. The form of the perceiver is the characteristic related to one's own mind. This is what's called form. So in Chan Buddhism, in the end, all forms are extinguished. But this kind of extinction doesn't mean that we now extinguish the form of white and extinguish that, then establish something else. It's not like that. The very form appearing before my mind is actually free from form. In the Heart Sutra, it says form is emptiness, emptiness is form. In the Diamond Sutra, to be free from all forms is to be called a Buddha. Form is free from form is form. This is very important in Chan Buddhism. In Vajrayana teachings, it's also said that our present conceptual thoughts, their essential nature is luminosity. Their essence is emptiness. This is very important. There's no need to abandon present conceptual thoughts and establish something elsewhere. It's just like how we build houses in big cities now. They completely demolish all the existing structures. Government departments come to draw a circle, write the character demolish, then tear it down. After tearing it down, they start using bulldozers and these machines and begin to build step by step. It's not like that. We demolish our original conceptual thoughts, then establish a new, formless conceptual thought. It's not like that. Recognizing the present essential nature is what's called being free from form, while within form. No thought is also like this. Thought mainly refers to thoughts. Actually, their conceptual aspects are different, but they're really the same meaning. What does this mean? Being without thought while within thought. Right when we're giving rise to thoughts, right when we're generating attachment or aversion, its essential nature is actually wisdom, actually no thought. We should look at it directly. In the past, Venerable Atisha once mentioned an instruction from his teacher. If you generate 100 conceptual thoughts in a day, it means you've given rise to 100 Dharmakaya wisdoms. This means the more conceptual thoughts we have, the more recognitions and awakenings we have. Many Dharma friends say, I have too many conceptual thoughts. What should I do? I'm so sad, so painful, so troubled, so restless. What should I do? Right now there's nothing I can do. So troubled. I can't stay still for even a moment. Actually, at such times you should tell them, being without thought while within thought. Right when you're giving rise to conceptual thoughts, if you recognize them, they're no thought. What is non-abiding? It's human beings' original nature. We humans discover in this world virtuous aspects, evil aspects, beauty and ugliness, enemies as well as relatives. And also in terms of speech, there are offensive words, irritating words, and deceptive and argumentative language and so forth. Many yogis in Vajrayana teachings, in the end, have no attachment to speech whatsoever. They rely entirely on others' repetition to establish meaning. There are also such signs of accomplishment, or they regard others' words and all the worldly gratitude and resentment entirely as a playful display of wisdom. This is what's called abiding in non-abiding. In each thought moment, do not think of previous circumstances. If past thoughts, present thoughts, and future thoughts continue in an unbroken succession, this is called bondage. In our daily lives, when our minds are giving rise to thoughts, we should not contemplate the various scenes we've experienced before. We should not recollect the past. If your past recollections present thoughts and conceptual thinking, and future various kinds of deluded thoughts continuously increase and continuously arise, this is called bondage. Therefore, in spiritual practice, if it's an ordinary mind, all conceptual thoughts that haven't recognized their essential nature, we can designate them as a kind of bondage. Regarding all phenomena, if thought after thought does not abide, then there is no bondage. This is taking non-abiding as the foundation. If regarding all phenomena, thought after thought, we don't cling to them, this is non-bondage. This is what the Sixth Patriarch explains here as the essence of non-abiding. Actually, in the Mahaprajnaparamita Sutra, it also says, if you abide in all phenomena, you do not abide in Prajnaparamita. If you do not abide in all phenomena, then you abide in Prajnaparamita. What does this mean? If you abide in all phenomena, this is called not abiding in Prajnaparamita. If you don't abide in all phenomena, this is called abiding in Prajnaparamita. We might be a bit confused, especially those who are just beginning to study. I see among the tourists who came this time, there are a few newcomers. Whether they're Buddhists or not, they're thinking, what are these people talking about? Abiding, not abiding. Not abiding is abiding. Abiding is not abiding. Does this mean if I stay in this hotel tonight, that's not abiding? How can not abiding be abiding? But this is also a profound Mahayana teaching. In the past, there was a scholar named Jnani in India who wrote an entry into the Mahayana. The Mahayana is profound and vast, seemingly easy to explain, but those of dull wisdom and narrow minds, upon hearing it, harbor fear and doubt. The Mahayana teachings are extremely profound. On the surface, they seem easy to understand and should be possible to explain. But actually, those with inferior wisdom, narrow-minded and of poor understanding, these people, when they hear it, become afraid, doubtful, unable to accept it, and may even easily develop heart problems. If the doctor hasn't prepared an electrocardiogram, their heart will beat very hard. So they must have, in the past there was a heart-saving pill. Is there still such medicine now? When my heart wasn't good, I used to take it often. Now I seem not to have taken it for many years. Is there such medicine? There is, right? When listening to the Prajnaparamita Sutras or Mahayana teachings, if it's really impossible to accept, some people need to prepare such medicine. Here it says thought after thought does not abide, then there is no bondage. One moment it says abide, the next it says not abide. When we study the Diamond Sutra, it's also like this. However, with the Diamond Sutra, people who had some understanding of emptiness teachings in past lives, when they see or hear this teaching, they develop great joy. Just as it says in Entering the Middle Way, some people, when they hear emptiness teachings, their tears flow continuously without stopping. They're extremely moved and touched. This is also a kind of virtuous root, not tears of suffering. Therefore, I think people with the right karmic connections to these emptiness teachings indeed can also accept them very easily, and moreover, for example, upon hearing the name of such teachings or seeing these Dharma texts or finding these texts in a certain place, they become wildly joyful. Below it says good and wise friends, externally being free from all forms is called no form. To be able to be free from forms means the Dharma nature is pure. This is taking no form as the essence. Just now I explained briefly. Here I'll explain in slightly more detail. The second topic is no form. What is no form? The Sixth Patriarch also tells the good and wise friends actually, externally being free from all forms is called no form. Having no forms is actually no form. This we can also explain well. Externally eliminating all clinging, all forms are absent. In Chan Buddhism and Vajrayana, ultimately all these forms are broken through. Actually, regarding breaking through forms, fundamentally everyone must know that the clinging that sentient beings recognize actually doesn't accord with the actual truth. If what we cling to did accord with the actual truth, then Chan Buddhism shouldn't say to be free from all forms, to see through everything. But because we are already deluded, Chan Buddhism's ultimate thought is actually reasonable. Therefore, we must be free from all forms. To be able to be free from all forms actually means everything is pure. Being free from all discriminating forms is called form. The essence of such forms is all pure. For people who have some recognition of the mind's essential nature, whether explaining from the East or from the West, wherever you start from, it should be easy. Otherwise, there are a very few Dharma friends. For example, earlier we discussed aspiring for East or West. The Sixth Patriarch negated this approach in his second question and answer. Some individuals might think in that case perhaps making aspirations is unnecessary, and rebirth in the Pure Land is also unnecessary. They might also develop some wrong views. Earlier it was said, for example, that offering meals and keeping precepts all have no merit. At that time, when Bodhidharma had a dialogue with Emperor Wu of Liang, he also spoke this way. When hearing this, some people of shallow wisdom think, oh, then all the merit we now accumulate in the worldly sense might not exist. We don't need to do these things. All such thinking goes astray. Therefore, in Buddhism, we need broad learning and extensive study, which is indeed very necessary. Not only does Buddhism need wisdom, but worldly dharmas also need wisdom. In the past, Confucius also spoke much about the faults of lacking wisdom and the merits of having wisdom. Actually, the wisdom he spoke of refers to the wisdom of Confucianism. But using this reasoning, we practitioners also need wisdom. People without wisdom, when they hear a bit about emptiness teachings, want to abandon all virtuous roots. Then, when accumulating merit is discussed, they don't value any aspect of the emptiness teachings. There are these two kinds of dangers. Below it says, good and wise friends, regarding all circumstances, if the mind is not defiled, this is called no thought. Regarding your own thoughts, always be free from all circumstances. Do not give rise to mind based on circumstances. The Sixth Patriarch continues to explain what we call no thought and non-abiding. How exactly should we explain them? Regarding all circumstances, if the mind is not defiled, this is no thought. Here is an extensive explanation of no thought. Regarding all circumstances, what we see before our eyes, what we hear beside our ears, the external objects of form, sound, smell, and taste, if our minds don't cling to them, although such appearances exist, if we don't cling to them, this is called no thought. Conversely, regarding your own thoughts, if you're free from all objects, the mind doesn't follow the circumstances. In this way, you won't generate various clinging minds based on external objects. Actually, here, whether discussing non-abiding, no form, or no thought, in any aspect, Chan Buddhism doesn't require that all conceptual thoughts be abandoned. Rather, its requirement is equivalent to what's taught in Dzogchen teachings. At the very moment of each thought, recognize its essential nature. If you recognize its essential nature, you won't generate afflictions or clinging in terms of characteristics. If you don't generate clinging in terms of characteristics, it won't become a true cause for creating our samsara. Just as Master Tilopa of the Kagyu lineage also said in the past, appearances won't obstruct us, but clinging will obstruct us. Longchen Rabjam also said in his related instruction texts, the thought that clings to a mountain must be severed, but the appearance of a mountain's form need not be severed. If we look and think, oh, this pillar is very nice, it will function as a cause for samsara. But if regarding everything that appears before our eyes, ears, nose, and tongue, we don't cling to it, then the appearance at that time won't defile you. Here it also says this, if you simply don't think about anything at all, eliminate all thoughts, and one thought is completely cut off, you are dead. Then you will be reborn elsewhere. This is a great mistake. It says, if in our process of spiritual practice we don't contemplate all things, don't think about anything at all, and all thoughts are completely severed, in that case it's equivalent to all thoughts, each and every thought being completely absent. This is equivalent to being like a dead person. If there are no thoughts now, they will arise elsewhere. For example, right now I'm here like a corpse with no thoughts. But after I die, it's impossible that death is like a lamp going out. They will arise somewhere else. If we consider this kind of thing to be spiritual practice, this is an extremely great mistake. We must definitely recognize this point now. Now, many people who study Chan Buddhism say they don't abide in anything. When I explained many Mahayana treatises in the past, I also explained this to everyone in detail. Is it a temporary preliminary practice? We can acknowledge this, because since beginningless time our conceptual thoughts have been very many. There are two ways to control conceptual thoughts. One is completely using the 9 stages of mental abiding to reduce conceptual thoughts. Another is the method of unifying shamatha and vipassana to recognize the essential nature of conceptual thoughts. There are these two methods. Among these two methods, which one do you adopt? See which one suits you. Whatever instructions your lineage guru gives you are completely acceptable. But what we need to know here is this, to completely not think about anything at all, to completely sever all conceptual thoughts and sit like this, having no conceptual thoughts, becoming like a stone or like a corpse with nothing at all. To take this as spiritual practice, for example, if you abide like this for 2 or 3 hours with nothing arising, no vipassana, no clarity, no luminosity, if there's no luminosity aspect of recognizing your mind's essential nature, even if you abide for a month, it may not be very important. Many people have often said in the past, it seems like for half a day I don't give rise to even a moment's conceptual thought. My shamatha practice is very good now. But this shamatha, as Mipham Rinpoche explained at the end of the White Lotus commentary that I translated before, is explained very clearly. It must be sustained by recognizing emptiness or by the wisdom of vipassana. Otherwise, you fall into the extreme of shamatha, fall into the extreme of mere emptiness. Falling into such mere emptiness actually becomes a cause for the formless realm. This point has already been explained in Finding Comfort and Ease in the Nature of Mind and Rest in Meditation. We should also pay attention to this aspect. When a bodhisattva truly abides, actually they don't abide in any phenomenon, but simply not abiding is not necessarily correct. In the Maharatnakuta Sutra it also says a bodhisattva maintains right mindfulness, contemplates the meaning well, does not abide in any phenomena, and is called a wise person. They don't abide in any phenomena with characteristics, but they also won't abandon recognizing the original face and essential nature. Therefore, in our Tibetan Buddhism, the pith instructions of many gurus and their practice methods should be said to be especially sublime. When I say especially sublime, each person's level of practice should be compared with the sutras, treatises, and instructions left by the wise ones of the past. In the process of such comparison, it's easy to avoid going astray and easy to enter into the genuine thought. This is very important for each practitioner. Many people also often practice Chan meditation. But if the method of Chan meditation is not used correctly, on one hand, you waste time. On the other hand, not only can you not liberate yourself, but you expend great effort on this, which I think is not worthwhile. Therefore, repeatedly comparing these scriptures with your own mind stream is also very important. Those who study the path should contemplate this. If you don't recognize the meaning of the Dharma, it's already bad enough if you err yourself. But to mislead others as well, being deluded yourself without seeing, and also slandering the Buddha's sutras, this is why we establish no thought as the fundamental principle. As people who study the path, we must contemplate this again and again. If we haven't understood, haven't recognized the profound secret meaning of the Dharma, then it's one thing if we ourselves make mistakes. Falling into the lower realms ourselves or wasting time is of course very regrettable. But more importantly, some people have practiced wrongly and studied wrongly themselves, yet they mislead others, often telling others wrong teachings and wrong views. They cause countless deluded people to ultimately fall into the lower realms. Moreover, they also often slander Buddhism, slandering the extremely profound scriptures left by the great masters of the past. In the end, indeed, they harm themselves. This self-deception and deceiving others is extremely frightening. There's a story from the past about a doctor who did many virtuous deeds, but in the process of doing virtuous deeds, he wasn't careful, used the wrong medicines, and also harmed many people. Later it's said that he first went to King Yama, and in the process of judgment he was first sentenced to the Avicii hell beneath the 18 levels of hell. While suffering torment in Avicii hell, he himself felt it was very unfair. He felt that although he had done some bad things in the past, he had also healed the sick and saved people, and had done many good deeds. He felt he was being punished unfairly. At this time, people beneath Avicii hell spoke to him. He thought, how can there be a hell beneath Avicii hell? Very strange. Later it was said that a person there was suffering even greater pain. Later he came to understand that this person had formerly been a teacher, a guru who taught Dharma to others. But in the process of teaching, he transmitted many wrong teachings and wrong views to others. Because of this karmic consequence, in a hell more terrible than Avicii hell, he experiences immeasurable suffering. Perhaps this is a folk saying. It might also be in Buddhist sutras. In any case, this is a story I know. This shows that when we teach Dharma to others or explain correct principles to others, first of all, we ourselves must definitely find out whether the principles we're teaching truly accord with the scriptures. This point is extremely important, especially regarding some key instructions on spiritual practice. We must all be very cautious and attentive. Great accomplished masters like Longchen Rabjam, who are universally recognized, the instructions they've left behind, there's no doubt about them. At the same time, we've previously received their oral transmission, and we have complete confidence in this. Even in my own mind stream, for example, when we teach words of my perfect teacher, finding comfort and ease in the nature of mind, Guru's heart essence, and so forth, although for me the effort and time I should devote to this area has been very long, I can say that the time spent familiarizing myself with this has been very long. But regarding my own practice, I dare not praise myself. I dare not say it's very good. However, I still have confidence. Just like a medicine in our worldly context that has a very great effect on patients, and moreover, its pharmaceutical company, the lineage of doctors, some of our doctors are especially skilled with particular medicines. I've seen some doctors who can only prescribe 1 or 2 medicines. They themselves are particularly familiar with these 2 medicines. When a patient comes, they say, "Come, I'll give you this injection." When prescribing medicine, they always prescribe this one. This is probably what they've obtained through their experience and actual practice. Just like when many people ask me to look at what practice they should do, I say, you should study words of my perfect teacher. What book should I read? You should read The Way of the Bodhisattva. Some people say, in Tibetan Buddhism there are so many scriptures, vast as the ocean. Why do you insist on these 2 books? Is it because you've taught them before? Are you being selfish? Actually, it's not really selfish. I myself feel these are the most excellent. For example, things I've eaten that were very delicious. When others say they want to eat something and ask what should I eat, what I've tasted myself, the food I most like to eat, I'll suggest you eat this. It might be better. I'm also like this. I think when we transmit the Dharma or provide materials to others, we must definitely pay attention. Next, it continues to say the content taught today. For those who haven't studied Chan Buddhism or Vajrayana teachings, some parts may not be very easy to explain. Below it says, good and wise friends, why do we establish no thought as the principle? It is only because people speak of seeing their nature, but deluded people have thoughts regarding circumstances. Based on those thoughts, they give rise to wrong views. All afflictions and deluded thoughts arise from this. The Sixth Patriarch said again, good and wise friends, why do we establish no thought as our principle here? The main reason is this. Some people often say, I've already realized my original mind and seen my nature, realized emptiness. I've already reached the highest level of Vajrayana teachings and so forth. They constantly claiming this. But actually, these people are often deluded by external objects. Things like wealth, fame, status, and various other external manifestations of the 8 worldly concerns, when they appear before them, they originally said, I've already realized emptiness. I'm a yogi, my practice is so good and so forth. But when ordinary worldly objects appear before them, their minds immediately cling to them. Not only do they cling to them, but indeed some of them, because they haven't truly realized emptiness, haven't seen their nature, become infatuated with external objects while simultaneously generating various wrong knowledge and wrong views. Some people with those around them don't properly discuss even karma and its acceptance and rejection. They completely just promote wrong views, all afflictions and deluded thoughts. In the end, they create negative karma, various disputes, various arguments. Actually, in our Tibetan Buddhism now, the vast majority are very good. The Buddhism itself indeed has no problems. But among those who promote it, some people use Tibetan Buddhism as a tool. In such people, sooner or later, some things not in accord with the Dharma will appear. Although at the beginning the advertisement is very beautiful and nice, later it may also turn out unsatisfactory with various kinds of situations. Some promoters of our Tibetan Buddhism may not be acting according to the Dharma properly. At the same time now, mainly in the Han region, some places don't examine carefully. Because they themselves are very blind, they don't know what exactly is the true Dharma, what is wrong Dharma, what is Buddhism. Many people mix superstition with various worldly folk beliefs together. After this, some phenomena that aren't quite in accordance with the Dharma appear. Of course, this is a minority. Regarding these issues, I've also often said that even in the worldly context, when we buy a piece of clothing or buy vegetables and food, at that time we also repeatedly examine, has this expired, has it already spoiled? At such times you need to examine. How much more so when seeking the Dharma that creates the fundamental conditions for our liberation throughout all lifetimes. When seeking such Dharma, everyone must definitely contemplate again and again. This is also very important. In your original nature, there is not a single Dharma to be attained. If you claim to have attained something and falsely speak of fortune and misfortune, this is the affliction of wrong views. Therefore, this teaching establishes no thought as the fundamental principle. Why does the Sixth Patriarch establish no thought here? Actually, he's explaining the emptiness of ultimate truth here. In the original nature, all phenomena have nothing to be attained. If there were truly something to attain at the ultimate level, if there were demerit and merit, this would be wrong affliction and wrong views. We also explained earlier that this is the highest view without any clinging whatsoever. From the perspective of such a view, actually all clinging is a kind of affliction and defilement. Therefore, in this teaching, ultimately speaking, we still establish no thought as our principle. Of course, I've also repeatedly explained this to everyone. After we've taught the Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch this time, I also don't hope that many people will throw away their prayer beads and throw away their prayer wheels, saying, the Sixth Patriarch said to establish no thought as the principle, so we don't need to recite. We don't need faith either. We don't need compassion either. We don't need to pray either. For lazy people, this might be very good. Only sleeping well is useful. Everything else is not needed. All virtuous deeds are not needed. Regarding evil deeds, Ordinary people naturally like evil deeds. If this hasn't been cut off while all virtuous deeds have been cut off, this also won't do. Originally, why did Kamala Shila in our Tibetan areas exclude Mahayana's Chan teachings at that time? Because in the end, even the butter lamps at Sami Monastery were gone, saying these are all not needed. Virtue is also a kind of clinging. Evil is also a kind of clinging. But actually, behaviors of not doing virtuous deeds will emerge endlessly instead. Therefore, in these aspects, we must definitely pay attention. Below it says, good and wise friends, what does no negate? What does thought contemplate? No means no dualistic characteristics, no mind of worldly afflictions. Thought means being mindful of the true suchness nature. True suchness is the essence of thought. Thought is the function of true suchness. Below it discusses no thought. In the term no thought, what exactly is the no? In no thought, what kind of thing is the thought contemplating? These two are explained through a questioning method. The so-called no means no duality, no mind of all afflictions. This should be clear here. There is no perceiver and perceived, no right and wrong, white and red, black and white, high and low, and so forth. All worldly dualities are absent. If they're absent, there is no mind of any afflictions. The thought here is a bit different from before. It refers to the true suchness nature. True suchness is the essence of thought. Thought is the function of true suchness. The thought here and the conceptual thoughts we usually speak of are not necessarily the same, if it's like the luminosity discussed in the third turning of the Dharma wheel. The essence of mind is actually the original luminosity. This original luminosity is the wondrous function of true suchness. When we explain it this way, it's very easy to understand. True suchness nature gives rise to thought. It is not the eyes, ears, nose, and tongue that can think. Because true suchness has nature, therefore thought arises. If true suchness were absent, eyes, ears, forms, and sounds would immediately be destroyed. The so-called true suchness, the thoughts that naturally arise, are not before the eyes, ears, nose, and tongue. We've also explained in logic that the five sense consciousnesses are actually non-conceptual. The thought of true suchness, this luminosity aspect recognized by our mind, if true suchness exists, then this mind's thought, clarity, and luminosity should exist. If true suchness doesn't exist, then everything that appears to the eyes, ears, nose, and tongue is also non-existent. Ultimately, we can say that recognition and true suchness cannot be separated. The so-called true suchness, Buddha nature, luminosity, or mind nature, what we call realizing the original mind and seeing the nature, are simply different ways of explaining in Chan Buddhism or Madhyamaka. In Mipham Rinpoche's related instructions, there are often many different terms. For someone who has some awakening to the original mind nature, you can say true suchness, or thought, or no form, or non-abiding. Any way of saying it is acceptable. If you don't recognize anything and make discriminations about the nature, you might never be able to figure it out. For example, if you've been to Larung, whether from a map, from a computer, from a phone, from many aspects, whichever route you've gone through, you basically know that's how it is. But if you've never been there, and even your eyes and ears aren't very good, whatever instruments you use, you can't figure it out. Therefore, we ordinary people, sometimes when we talk about true suchness and luminosity, at this time things are a bit vague. But actually, when realizing, seeing, hearing, awareness, and knowing also need not be abandoned. Here it also says, good and wise friends. When true suchness nature gives rise to thought, although the six sense faculties have seeing, hearing, awareness, and knowing, they are not defiled by myriad circumstances, and the true nature is always at ease. Here it also explains that true suchness is a kind of mind's thought that recognizes the nature. When we truly recognize the manifestations of the six sense faculties in the worldly sense, seeing, hearing, awareness, and knowing are actually not destroyed. Actually, these instances of seeing, hearing, awareness, and knowing exist, but they don't cause defilement. They won't be like us ordinary people, where whatever the eyes see or the ears hear immediately becomes a cause for afflictions. It won't be like that. Shantideva also said seeing, hearing, and awareness are not blocked here. What is blocked here is the cause of suffering, clinging to true existence. So what are we breaking through here? The cause of suffering, clinging to true existence. Clinging to true existence is actually the cause we need to eliminate. Therefore, we don't need to truly destroy anything. If our seeing, hearing, awareness, and knowing are not destroyed, yet we recognize our mind's essential nature, but have no clinging whatsoever, actually, this is a very high level of realization in Vajrayana teachings. Our true nature is at ease. All worldly behaviors are free and at ease. In the Buddhist sutras, this is actually mentioned in the Vimalakirti Sutra. Therefore, the sutra says, able to skillfully discern the characteristics of all dharmas while remaining unmoved in ultimate meaning. In the Vimalakirti Sutra, it also says earlier, the Dharma king's power surpasses all beings. He constantly uses Dharma wealth to give to all. At the same time, as a wise person, they can skillfully distinguish the characteristics of all phenomena. As a wise person, they can distinguish the characteristics of all phenomena. This is ultimate truth, that is, ultimate truth that remains unmoved. If we have some recognition of ultimate truth, although the characteristics of phenomena are not broken, actually understanding their meaning is also very profound. In the past, during the Tang dynasty, there was a Chan master called Yuanlu. Once he asked Chan master Huihai, he asked, "In your practice, are you making a genuine effort? How do you practice?" He replied, "I practice with great diligence. I am constantly making effort." Chan Master Yuanlu then asked further, "To what extent are you diligent in your practice? Exactly how diligent are you in your practice?" He replied, "As for my level of diligence in practice, when I'm hungry I eat, when I'm tired I sleep. This is my diligence." Chan Master Yuanlu said, "This is what ordinary people all do. When hungry, they eat. Even yaks can do this. Yaks also eat grass. When tired, they sleep. Everyone sleeps. So what's special about this?" For us ordinary people looking at this, we can't understand it. It appears that there is no Huatu being investigated here. But what does it actually mean? What was just mentioned? When hungry, eat. When tired, sleep. Actually, within this, the unique Chan practice of ordinary mind is practice has already been applied. Worldly people eat when they are hungry, but when they eat, they become picky and selective, craving delicious food. In this case, there's none of that. When hungry, although one must conform to the world and maintain one's body by eating, regarding this eating, there's no such clinging. Then when tired, although one needs to sleep, ordinary worldly people will want to sleep comfortably and hope to have good dreams. During the dreaming process, they don't want to have nightmares, don't want to wake up too much at night, and so forth. They have many worries and demands. But generally with Chan practitioners, they simply eat in accordance with circumstances, responding to sentient beings or to the needs of the body, eating naturally. They won't have many afflictions within it. Some of our people, in order to eat one meal, are also especially afflicted. This won't do, that won't do. Too much won't do, too little won't do. This and that, there are also many issues. When sleeping as well, sleeping too early won't do, sleeping too late won't do. Sleeping on this side won't do, sleeping on that side won't do. Sleeping on the back won't do, sleeping on the stomach won't do. Nothing works. Sitting also won't do. In that case, it's very painful. But generally, great masters awakened in Chan Buddhism, anything is fine. Eating, sleeping, walking, whatever must be done in accordance with worldly conditions. But what they apply in their wisdom is not the focus of their life. Therefore, I think here everyone should understand, on the surface, many people can skillfully distinguish all characteristics. On the surface, they all seem to be similar people. But why is it that some great masters in Buddhist history, within the ordinary, manifest some extraordinary states? Even within ordinary behavior, they manifest extraordinary actions, yet we cannot do this. We have no way to transcend it. What is the reason? It's because we don't have such realization. In all characteristics, we cling to characteristics. But these truly great masters, regarding clinging to characteristics and the use of characteristics, there is a certain difference. The teaching is complete, good.
Kirgana jirano chupai
这顿从人抓小。
반드른 거라 반마 서더더 반드른 거라 반마 서더 반드른 거라 반마 서더더